The phone lit up at 11:47 p.m. I was halfway through a spreadsheet for the Riverside commercial project when the notification pulled my eyes away from the numbers. Mara's name appeared on the screen. I need to be honest, I'm still in love with my ex. I can't help it. I read it 3 times. The words didn't change. The kitchen was silent except for the refrigerator's hum. I set down my coffee mug and picked up the phone, reading it again. Still in love. Can't help it. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. I thought about all the responses I could send. Questions, accusations, demands for explanation. Instead, I typed 2 words. Thanks for telling me. I hit send and placed the phone face down on the table. 30 seconds passed. The screen lit up again. So, you understand? She needed validation. She needed me to make this easier for her, to give her permission, to tell her it was okay that she just confessed to loving another man while wearing my ring. I opened my photos. Found the screenshot I'd saved 2 weeks ago. Lucas Rand's wedding invitation. Sent to Mara's work email, which she'd left open on our shared laptop. The groom was her ex. The bride was Tessa Vaughn, Mara's best friend since college. The wedding was scheduled for next month. I sent both screenshots without a word. Then I watched the screen. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3. The typing indicator appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Nothing came through. I finished my coffee, closed the spreadsheet, walked upstairs to the bedroom we'd shared for 6 years. Mara was in Portland for a conference. She wouldn't be back until Thursday. That gave me 3 days to think clearly. I didn't feel angry. That's what surprised me most. I felt something colder, something that settled in my chest like lake water in November. Clear, heavy, patient. She'd called it honesty. But honesty that arrives the week before your ex marries your best friend isn't honesty at all. It's strategy. It's insurance. It's making sure you have somewhere soft to land if the timing goes wrong. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. My phone stayed silent. No calls, no explanations, no apologies. That silence told me everything I needed to know. She'd expected me to fight, to beg, to give her the drama she needed to justify whatever came next. Instead, I'd thanked her. I'd shown her proof that her timing wasn't accidental, and now she was scrambling to figure out what that meant. I closed my eyes and let the clarity settle deeper. This wasn't a marriage ending. It was already over. Had been for months, probably. I'd just been too busy with work to notice the distance growing, the late nights she blamed on event planning, the phone calls she took in the other room, the way she stopped asking about my day. I'd passed a test she never expected me to pass, and that changed everything. Thursday morning arrived with rain. I heard Mara's car in the driveway at 9:15 a.m. I was at the kitchen table with my laptop, reviewing material estimates for a strip mall renovation in Gresham. The front door opened. Her footsteps were careful, measured. "Hey," she said from the doorway. I looked up. "Hey." She set her bag down. Dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back in a ponytail. She was wearing the gray blazer she saved for important presentations. "We should talk," she said. "Okay." She sat across from me, folded her hands on the table. "I didn't mean for you to find out that way." "How did you mean for me to find out?" She blinked. "That's not fair. You texted me at midnight, while you were 300 miles away. That seems pretty intentional." I was confused. I needed to be honest about what I was feeling. "When did it start?" I asked. "The feelings?" "I don't know. A few weeks ago. Maybe longer." "Before or after Lucas got engaged?" Her jaw tightened. "That's not relevant." "It's extremely relevant," I said calmly. "Because if it was after, then you're having a crisis about losing something you never intended to keep. And if it was before, then you've been lying to me for months." "I wasn't lying. I was trying to figure things out. By texting your ex, while engaged to someone else, while married to me." She looked away. "You don't understand. Help me understand. Lucas and I have history, real history. We were together for 3 years. We talked about getting married, and then he just ended it. No warning, no explanation. He started dating Tessa 2 months later." "Your best friend." "Yes. And you stayed friends with both of them." "It was complicated. Clearly." I closed my laptop. "So when did Lucas reach out to you?" Her eyes snapped back to mine. "What makes you think he reached out to me?" "Because you don't suddenly fall back in love with someone from a distance. Not after 6 years. Something triggered this. A conversation, a message, something." She was quiet for a long moment. Then, very quietly, "He called me 3 weeks ago. He said he needed to talk about the wedding, about making sure everyone was comfortable. And we talked. For a while. He said he regretted how things ended between us, that he'd made a mistake, that he never stopped caring about me. While planning a wedding to your best friend. He was confused. Seems to be going around. I stood and poured myself more coffee. Did Tessa know about this phone call? No. Does she know about your feelings? No. Does Lucas know you're still in love with him? She hesitated. Yes. What did he say when you told him? Another pause, longer this time. He said he felt the same way. I leaned against the counter. The rain picked up outside, drumming against the windows. So let me make sure I understand. Your ex-boyfriend, who is about to marry your best friend, calls you 3 weeks before the wedding to say he made a mistake. You tell him you're still in love with him. He says he feels the same way. And your solution to this situation was to send me a text at midnight asking if I understand. When you say it like that, how should I say it? You're making it sound calculated, wasn't it? No, I was scared. I was confused. I didn't know what to do. I took a sip of coffee. Here's what I think happened. Lucas got cold feet. He reached out to you because you're safe. You're familiar. You're the one who never stopped wanting him. He needed to know you were still an option, and you gave him exactly what he needed. Validation, an escape hatch, insurance. That's not true. Then what is true? She stood abruptly. I don't have to explain myself to you like this. Actually, you do. You're my wife. You just told me you're in love with someone else. I think I'm entitled to an explanation. I needed to be honest. You needed to cover yourself, I said quietly. You saw those screenshots. You know I know about the wedding? About Tessa? You realized I could do the math, so you framed it as honesty, as bravery, as being true to your feelings. But really, you were just making sure I knew before Lucas made his choice. That way, if he backs out, you can say you tried to tell me, and if he goes through with the wedding, you can blame me for not fighting hard enough. Her face went pale. You're twisting this. Am I? I came here to talk, to be honest with you, to figure out what we do next. Here's what we do next, I said. You tell me when Lucas proposed. She froze. What? To Tessa. When did he propose? I don't. Why does that matter? Because I'm curious about timelines, about when things happen, about who knew what when. So tell me, when did Lucas propose to your best friend? She looked at the floor. 7 months ago. Before or after we went to Cannon Beach for our anniversary? Before. I nodded slowly. So he was already engaged when we spent that weekend talking about maybe starting a family, about maybe buying a bigger place, about our future. I didn't know he was going to propose, but you knew he did, and you didn't tell me. It wasn't relevant to us. Everything about Lucas is relevant to us, I said, because apparently he never left. He's been here the whole time, in your head, in your heart, waiting for his moment. She wrapped her arms around herself. What do you want me to say? I want you to tell me the truth, not the version that makes you feel better, not the story where you're confused and scared and just trying to do the right thing, the actual truth. I don't know what the truth is anymore. Yes, you do. I set down my mug. You've known for a while, you just didn't want to admit it, because admitting it means accepting that you settled, that you married me because Lucas wasn't available, that I was the backup plan. That's not. It is, and we both know it. The only question now is what you're going to do about it. She stared at me. Tears welled in her eyes but didn't fall. Are you leaving me? I don't know yet. Do you still love me? I took a long breath, looked at her standing there in our kitchen, in the house we'd bought together, wearing the ring I'd saved 3 months to afford. I love the person I thought you were, but I don't know if that person ever existed. She flinched. Go stay at your sister's for a few days, I said. Give us both some space. We'll talk again next week. Jack, please. She picked up her bag, walked to the door, stopped. For what it's worth, I really did love you. I still do. If that were true, I said quietly, you wouldn't have sent that text. She left. I stood in the kitchen listening to her car start, back out, disappear down the street. Then I sat at the table and opened my laptop again. I had work to finish, numbers to check, estimates to submit, but my mind was somewhere else entirely. I thought about Lucas, about his reputation, about the luxury car dealership he ran on the east side, about the life he'd built on image and confidence and the ability to make people believe he was more successful than he actually was. I thought about Mara, about the way she'd looked at me when I refused to give her the fight she wanted, the way she'd needed me to understand, to make it easier. I thought about that silence, those 3 minutes after I sent the screenshots, the typing indicator that appeared and disappeared, the absence of explanation. And I thought about something Nolan had said once, years ago, when we were working on a security system install for a jewelry store. He'd been explaining how locks only work because people believe they work, how the real security isn't in the metal or the electronics, it's in the psychology, in making someone believe that breaking in isn't worth the risk. I pulled up my phone, sent Nolan a text. "You free for a drink tomorrow?" He responded in 30 seconds. "Always. What's up? Need some advice. About psychology." "Sounds serious." "It is? I'll bring the whiskey." I set down the phone and returned to my spreadsheet. But the numbers felt different now. They weren't just estimates. They were patterns, variables, equations that could be solved if you understood the inputs. And for the first time in 6 years, I had clarity about exactly what those inputs were. Mara stayed at her sister's for 5 days. We texted occasionally, polite questions about logistics, about bills, about whether I'd picked up her dry cleaning, nothing about Lucas, nothing about us, just the architecture of a life we were both pretending still existed. She came back on Tuesday evening. I was in the garage organizing tools when I heard the door. She appeared in the doorway holding a bag from the Thai place we used to order from every Friday. "I got your usual," she said. "Thought we could talk." We ate at the kitchen table. She told me about work, about a corporate event she was planning for a tech startup downtown, about the challenges of coordinating catering for 300 people. I listened, nodded, asked appropriate questions. She seemed relieved, like she'd expected resistance and found none. Like my lack of anger was permission to pretend nothing had changed. I noticed small things, the way she checked her phone every few minutes, the way she angled the screen away from me, the way she excused herself twice to take calls in the other room, coming back each time with a tight smile and some excuse about work emergencies. I didn't ask who was calling. I didn't need to. "Jack," she said halfway through dinner. "I've been thinking." "About?" "About us. About what I said last week. I think I was just scared. Pre-wedding jitters, maybe. Seeing Lucas getting married made me question everything. But I don't want to lose you." "Okay." She blinked. "Okay?" "I'm listening. I mean, I want to make this work. I want to be better, more present, more honest." "More honest than telling me you're in love with someone else?" She flinched. "That came out wrong. I wasn't thinking clearly." "What are you thinking now?" "Yeah, I'm thinking I made a mistake. That I let old feelings confuse me. But you're my husband. You're the one I chose. That has to mean something." I set down my fork. "It does mean something, but I'm not sure it means what you think it means." "What does that mean?" "It means I appreciate the effort, the apology, the Thai food, all of it. But words are easy. Actions matter more." "So what do you want me to do?" "I want you to stop lying." Her face went still. "I'm not lying." "You're lying right now. You've checked your phone 17 times since you got here. You've taken 2 calls you wouldn't take in front of me. You're telling me you want to make this work while actively hiding something. I'm not hiding anything." "Then show me your phone." She stared at me. "That's not fair." "Why not? If there's nothing to hide, show me." "It's a privacy issue. You don't get to demand access to my personal conversations." "I'm not demanding. I'm asking. There's a difference." "The answer is no." "Then we're done eating." I stood and cleared my plate, put it in the sink, turned back to face her. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to keep living here. I'm not kicking you out. We'll keep splitting bills, keep maintaining the house, keep existing in the same space. But we're not married anymore. Not really. We're just 2 people waiting for someone else to make a decision." "That's not true." "It is, and you know it. Lucas is stalling. He's trying to figure out if he can back out of the wedding without destroying his reputation. And you're waiting to see which direction he jumps. You're keeping me close in case he jumps away from you. That's not love. That's strategy. You don't know what you're talking about. Then prove me wrong. Cut contact with Lucas. Block his number. Tell Tessa everything. Choose me completely." She looked away. "It's not that simple." "It's exactly that simple. But you won't do it, because you're not ready to let him go." "You're being unfair." "I'm being realistic." I walked to the garage door. Stopped, turned back. "For what it's worth, I don't think Lucas is going to choose you. I think he's going to marry Tessa. And when he does, you're going to be devastated. And I'm going to be right here. watching it happen, knowing you threw us away for someone who never wanted you enough. I left her sitting at the table. The next morning, I called Nolan. We met at a bar in Selwood, a quiet place with dim lighting and booths in the back. He ordered whiskey. I ordered coffee. "So what's this about?" he asked. I told him everything. The text, the screenshots, the phone calls, the pattern I was seeing. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he leaned back and let out a long breath. "That's rough, man. I'm sorry. I don't want sympathy. I want information." "What kind of information?" "You install security systems. You understand how people think about safety, about reputation, about what they're willing to risk. I want to understand Lucas. What makes him feel secure? What would make him feel exposed?" Nolan studied me. "You're talking about revenge." "I'm talking about understanding." "Same thing, in this context." He took a sip of whiskey. "What do you want to know?" "Lucas runs a luxury car dealership. His entire business is built on image, on being the guy who drives the nicest cars, wears the nicest suits, lives the nicest life. What happens if that image cracks?" "Depends on the crack. If it's personal, people forgive it. If it's professional, they remember it." "What's the line between personal and professional?" "Trustworthiness. If people think you're unreliable, if they think you cut corners, if they think you're desperate, they stop doing business with you. Luxury goods are about confidence, about buying from someone who doesn't need the sale. The second you look hungry, you lose. So reputation is everything." "In his world, absolutely. How would someone damage that reputation without breaking any laws?" Nolan set down his glass. "Are you sure you want to go down this road?" "I'm not going anywhere yet. I'm just thinking." "Thinking can get you in trouble. So can ignoring reality." He was quiet for a moment, then carefully. "You'd have to make him look unstable. Make people question his judgment. Get them asking why his life seems to be falling apart. But you'd have to do it subtly. No direct accusations, no obvious sabotage. Just enough pressure that he starts making mistakes on his own." "How?" "You'd need leverage. Something he doesn't want getting out. Something that connects to his business or his wedding or his sense of control. Then you'd need to make him aware you have it without ever directly threatening him. Let his imagination do the work." "That's vague." "It's intentional, because if you're serious about this, you need to understand something. The second you start down this path, you become someone different, someone who calculates pain, someone who watches and waits and strikes when it hurts most. You sure that's who you want to be?" I thought about Mara sitting at the table, about Lucas on the phone with her, telling her he made a mistake while planning a wedding to someone else, about the message at midnight, about the silence that followed the screenshots. "I'm not sure about anything anymore," I said, "but I know I'm not going to sit around waiting for them to decide my life for me." Nolan nodded slowly. "Then let me give you one piece of advice. Don't act on anger. Don't act on hurt. Act on clarity, on cold, clear understanding of what you want and why you want it. Because once you start, you can't take it back." "I'll keep that in mind." We finished our drinks, talked about other things, work, sports, the city budget crisis, normal conversation between friends. But underneath it, something had shifted. He knew what I was thinking, and he hadn't tried to talk me out of it. That told me everything I needed to know about whether this was crazy or justified. It was both. Over the next week, I watched Mara. Not obviously, not obsessively, just carefully. I noticed when she left the house and when she came back. I noticed when she spent 20 minutes in the car before coming inside. I noticed when she was happy and when she was anxious. She was happy after calls with Lucas, anxious before seeing Tessa. That pattern told me Lucas was still stringing her along, still giving her hope, still making promises he had no intention of keeping, and Mara was letting him. On Thursday night, Tessa came over for dinner. It was planned weeks ago, before everything happened. Mara asked if I wanted to cancel. I said no. I wanted to see how this played out. Tessa arrived at 7 with a bottle of wine and a story about traffic. She hugged Mara, hugged me, sat at our table like nothing was wrong. Because for her, nothing was wrong. She had no idea her best friend was sleeping with her fiancé behind her back. Wait, that's not accurate. I don't know if they were sleeping together, but they were definitely together in some way. Emotionally, psychologically, building something that required Tessa to not exist. "So?" Tessa said, pouring wine. 3 weeks until the wedding. Can you believe it?" Mara smiled tightly. "Time flies. I'm so nervous. Like, what if something goes wrong? What if the flowers are late? What if someone objects during the ceremony? I watched Mara's face. She didn't flinch. No one's going to object. You never know. Lucas has some crazy exes. I'm sure they've all moved on. Tessa laughed. I hope so, although between you and me, I think he still has feelings for someone. He gets this look sometimes, like he's somewhere else. Mara's smile didn't change, but her hand tightened around her wine glass. Everyone has a past. True, but it's different with Lucas. He's so guarded. I feel like I only get parts of him, like he's keeping something in reserve. That's just how some people are. Is that how Jack is? Tessa looked at me. Do you keep secrets? Everyone keeps secrets, I said. The question is whether they're worth keeping. Tessa tilted her head. That's a very philosophical answer. Jack's full of those lately, Mara said. There was an edge in her voice. We ate, we talked. Tessa told stories about wedding planning, about Lucas's family, about the venue they'd picked, a restored barn outside the city with views of Mount Hood, about the photographer who cost more than my first car. I listened and smiled and asked appropriate questions, and I watched Mara squirm. When Tessa left, Mara closed the door and leaned against it. Thank you for not saying anything. Why would I say anything? I don't know. To hurt me? To blow everything up? I'm not interested in hurting you, or Tessa, or Lucas. I'm interested in understanding what happens next. What do you mean? I mean, Lucas is getting married in 3 weeks. To your best friend. And you're still in love with him. Something has to give. I'll figure it out. Will you? I moved closer. Not threatening, just present. Because from where I'm standing, you're hoping he cancels the wedding. You're hoping he chooses you, and you're keeping me around as insurance in case he doesn't. But here's the thing you haven't considered. What if he goes through with the wedding and still wants you? What if he wants both? The respectable marriage to Tessa and the secret affair with you? Her eyes widened slightly. He wouldn't do that. Wouldn't he? He's already doing it. He's engaged to one woman while telling another he made a mistake. Why would marriage change that? Because marriage is different? Is it? Or is it just a bigger version of what's already happening? She pushed past me, walked to the stairs, stopped. You're being cruel. I'm being honest, which is more than you've given me. She went upstairs. I heard the bedroom door close. Lock. I stood in the kitchen for a long time, thinking about Tessa, about how earnest she'd been, how excited, how completely unaware that her entire future was built on a foundation that was already cracking. Part of me wanted to tell her, to warn her, to give her the information she needed to protect herself, but another part of me understood that telling her would only hurt her without solving anything. Lucas would deny it. Mara would deny it. I'd look bitter and jealous, and nothing would change except everyone would be miserable. No. If this was going to end, it had to end naturally. With Lucas making a choice, with Mara facing consequences, with Tessa seeing who she was really marrying. And for that to happen, I needed Lucas to feel pressure. I needed him to slip. I needed him to show Tessa exactly who he was, and I was starting to understand how to make that happen. I didn't call it revenge. That word carried implications I wasn't ready to accept. Revenge suggested anger. Revenge suggested irrationality. What I was doing was simpler. I was creating conditions. I was introducing variables. I was watching a system under pressure to see where it broke. That's what I told myself anyway. I spent Saturday morning at the public library, not researching Lucas directly. That would leave a trail. Instead, I read articles about luxury car sales, about reputation management, about how high-end businesses maintain client confidence. I learned that the luxury market operates on exclusivity and trust, that clients aren't just buying cars, they're buying status. And status is fragile. It requires consistent signals that you're successful, stable, in control. Lucas's dealership was called Prestige Motors. I'd driven past it before. Glass showroom, European imports, prices that required financing terms longer than most marriages. The kind of place where salespeople wore tailored suits and spoke in terms of investment and lifestyle enhancement. I pulled up the business registration online. Lucas was listed as owner and primary operator. No partners, no corporate structure, just him. Which meant his personal reputation and the business reputation were the same thing. Damage one, damage both. I needed to understand his client base. Who bought $50,000 cars from a small independent dealer instead of a franchise? People who valued personal relationships, people who wanted to feel special, people who believed Lucas understood their needs in a way larger dealerships couldn't. Those relationships required trust, and trust required stability. Sunday afternoon, I met Nolan at a coffee shop in Hawthorne. He was reading a book about World War II code breaking when I arrived. "You're really into that," I said, sitting down. "It's fascinating. The whole war was won on information, on knowing what the other side was thinking before they did it, on creating patterns and then breaking them." "Relevant to our conversation?" "Maybe. Depends on what you're planning." "I'm not planning anything. I'm just thinking." "Sure." He closed the book. "So, what are you thinking about today? Hypothetically, if someone wanted to make a person feel watched without actually watching them, how would they do it?" Nolan stirred his coffee slowly. "That's a very specific question. Humor me." "Well, hypothetically, you'd establish that you have information, something true, something they didn't expect you to know. Then you'd let them wonder what else you know. You wouldn't follow up. You wouldn't make demands. You'd just let the awareness sit. Let them imagine. Let their own paranoia do the work." "How would you establish that you have information without revealing how you got it?" "You drop something small, something that could be coincidence but probably isn't. A detail, a name, a date, something that makes them think, 'How did he know that?' And then you disappear. No confrontation, no explanation, just gone. Let them stew." "What if they confront you directly?" "You deny everything. Politely, calmly. You act confused. You make them sound paranoid for even bringing it up. That's when they start doubting themselves, doubting their judgment, doubting their control." I absorbed this. "That seems manipulative." "It is manipulative. That's the point. You're manipulating their psychology without ever breaking a law or making a threat. You're just making them uncomfortable in their own life. Uncomfortable enough to make mistakes? Uncomfortable enough to reveal who they really are." We sat in silence for a moment. Then Nolan leaned forward. "Jack, I need to ask you something. Are you doing this because you want Mara back, or because you want Lucas to suffer?" I thought about that. Really thought about it. "Neither. I'm doing this because I'm tired of being the person things happen to. I'm tired of waiting for other people to decide my life. I want agency, I want control, even if it's just the control to make them as uncomfortable as they've made me." "That's honest, at least." "You think it's wrong?" "I think it's human. But human doesn't always mean right." "Would you stop me?" He considered. "No, but I'd remind you that once you start, there's no going back. You'll have to live with whoever you become on the other side of this." "I can live with it. We'll see." Monday evening, Tessa called Mara. I was in the living room when the phone rang. Mara answered in the kitchen. I could hear her voice through the wall, bright and false. "Hey, how are you?" Pause. "Oh, that's exciting. What did you decide?" Pause. "No, I think the gold is better, more elegant." Pause. Then her voice changed, dropped, became quieter. "Wait, what? When did this happen?" I moved closer to the wall. "No, I hadn't heard. Is he okay?" Long pause. "That's so strange. I mean, it's probably nothing, but still." Another pause. "Okay. Yeah, let me know if you need anything." She hung up, stayed in the kitchen for several minutes. When she emerged, her face was tight. "Everything okay?" I asked. She startled. "Yeah, fine, just wedding stuff." Sounded like more than wedding stuff. She studied me. Someone vandalized Lucas's car, scratched the paint, broke a mirror. I raised my eyebrows. "That's terrible." "When?" "Last night. He was parked at a restaurant downtown, came out and found it trashed." "Did he call the police?" "Yeah, they took a report, but they said it's probably random. Happens a lot in that area." "Probably." I returned my attention to my laptop. "Still, that's got to be stressful, right before the wedding." "Yeah." She was still watching me. "It's weird timing." Timing is always weird when you're paying attention. She didn't respond, just went upstairs. I hadn't touched Lucas's car. I'd never even been to that restaurant. But Mara didn't know that, and now she was wondering. Now she was connecting dots that didn't exist. Now she was starting to ask herself if I was capable of more than she'd given me credit for. That seed of doubt was all I needed to plant. Tuesday morning, I called the dealership. A receptionist answered. I asked to speak with Lucas about a potential purchase. She put me through. "This is Lucas." His voice was smooth, confident, sales-trained. "Hi, Lucas. My name is Jack Halverson. I'm in the market for a used luxury sedan, and your dealership came highly recommended." "Great. We'd love to help. What are you looking for specifically?" "Something reliable, professional. I'm a commercial estimator, so I spend a lot of time driving between job sites. I want something that makes the right impression without being flashy. I have several options that might work. When are you free to come in? How about Thursday afternoon, around 3? Perfect. I'll have some vehicles pulled aside for you. Appreciate it. Oh, and Lucas, I think we have a mutual connection. Mara Halverson. Silence. Brief but noticeable. Mara? Yeah, she's my wife. She mentioned you two went way back. Small world, right? Another pause. Right. Small world. See you Thursday. He hung up quickly. I sat back and smiled. I hadn't lied. I hadn't threatened. I'd just introduced myself. But now Lucas knew that I knew who he was, that I was paying attention, that I was taking an interest in his business at a very inconvenient time. And he had 2 days to wonder why. Thursday at 3, I walked into Prestige Motors wearing khakis and a button-down, professional but casual, the kind of customer who might buy something but wasn't in a hurry. Lucas met me in the showroom. He looked good. Tailored navy suit, expensive watch, perfect hair, exactly the image he needed to project. But when he shook my hand, his palm was slightly damp. Jack, good to meet you. Likewise. He led me to a row of sedans, started his pitch, talked about German engineering, resale value, maintenance costs. He was good at it, smooth, practiced, but I could see the tension in his shoulders, the way he kept glancing at me like he was trying to figure something out. So, you know Mara, he said eventually. Casual, like it just occurred to him. I do. We've been married 6 years. Right, she's great. We go way back. So I've heard. You're getting married soon, right? Congratulations. Thanks. 3 weeks. Exciting time. Also stressful, I imagine. It has its moments. I bet. Coordinating everything, making sure all the pieces fit, making sure nothing unexpected happens. He looked at me sharply. What do you mean? Just that weddings are complicated. Lots of moving parts. Lots of things that can go wrong. I ran my hand along the hood of a black sedan. Like your car getting vandalized. Mara mentioned that. Terrible timing. Yeah, just bad luck. Probably. I met his eyes. Although sometimes bad luck is just a warning, a signal that something's off, that someone's paying attention. I don't follow. I'm just saying, when strange things start happening, it's worth asking why. Worth thinking about what might be causing it. Worth being more careful. He straightened. Are you threatening me? Why would I threaten you? I'm here to buy a car. It doesn't sound like you're here to buy a car. Well, that's disappointing. I had high hopes for this place, but if you're not interested in my business, I can go elsewhere. I walked toward the door, stopped, turned back. Oh, and Lucas, tell Mara I said hi. I'm sure you two will talk soon. I left before he could respond. Outside, I got in my truck and drove away. Hands steady on the wheel, heart rate normal, no adrenaline, no fear. Just calm clarity about what I'd accomplished. I'd made him aware, I'd connected myself to his discomfort. I'd made him question what I knew and what I might do with it. And I'd walked away without ever making a direct accusation. Now he had to wonder, had to imagine, had to start making decisions based on incomplete information. That's when people made mistakes. That evening, Mara confronted me the moment I walked in the door. What did you do? I set down my keys. Hello to you too. Lucas called me. He said you came to the dealership. I did. I'm thinking about buying a car. You're not thinking about buying a car. You were intimidating him. I was asking about sedans. He's the one who seemed uncomfortable. You brought up the vandalism. You made it sound like you were involved. I mentioned it because you told me about it. That's what married people do. They share information. You're lying. Am I? Or is Lucas lying to you? Have you considered that possibility? That maybe he's feeling guilty about something and projecting that guilt onto me? She stepped closer. You need to stay away from him. I'm not near him. I went to a car dealership. That's not a crime. You're trying to sabotage the wedding. Why would I do that? If Lucas marries Tessa, you lose him forever. That's good for me. That's what I want. She faltered. Then why are you doing this? Doing what? Existing? Going about my life? Making normal business inquiries? You're the one who's convinced I'm doing something wrong. Maybe that says more about you than it does about me. She stared at me. You've changed. Have I? Or have you just started paying attention? She turned and walked upstairs. I heard the bedroom door close. I poured myself a glass of water. Thought about Lucas scrambling to explain our interaction to Mara. Thought about Mara now questioning whether I was dangerous or just present. Thought about the doubt spreading between them like a crack in ice. I hadn't broken any laws, hadn't made any threats, hadn't touched anyone or anything. I'd just shown up, asked questions, let them know I was watching, and that was enough. The wedding was 2 weeks away. I knew this because Mara had started leaving bridal shower invitations on the kitchen counter. Little reminders that life was moving forward, that Lucas was marrying Tessa, that whatever fantasy she'd been nurturing was running out of time. She'd become harder to read. Some days she was cheerful, almost manic, talking about work and renovations and plans for the summer. Other days she was silent, retreating to the bedroom for hours, claiming headaches or exhaustion. She stopped asking me about my day, stopped pretending we were going to fix things. We existed in parallel, two people in the same house, living separate lives, waiting for something to break. I gave it time. Patience was essential. Rushing would reveal intent. Instead, I maintained normalcy, went to work, paid bills, kept the house running, played the role of the steady, predictable husband who was exactly where everyone expected him to be, while I planned something else entirely. On Friday evening, I drove to Lucas's dealership. Not inside, just past it. I wanted to understand his patterns. When he arrived, when he left, whether he was alone. I did this 3 times over a week, varying the times, making mental notes. He usually left around 7, sometimes later if he had a customer. He always locked up himself, checked the doors twice, set the alarm, control, ritual, the behavior of someone who needed order. On the 8th night, I waited until he left, followed at a distance, not close enough to be obvious, just close enough to see where he went. He drove to a gym in the Pearl District, parked in the underground garage, stayed inside for 90 minutes, came out looking refreshed, hair still damp from the shower. Then he drove to Tessa's apartment, stayed for 2 hours, left at 11, but he didn't go home. He drove to a bar called The Woodsman, sat alone at the end, drank 2 whiskeys, checked his phone constantly, seemed agitated. I parked across the street, watched through the window. After 30 minutes, a woman approached him. Not Tessa, not Mara, someone else. They talked. She laughed. He bought her a drink. They left together at midnight. I didn't follow them. I already had what I needed. Lucas was cheating, not just emotionally with Mara, actively, with strangers, 2 weeks before his wedding. That changed everything. I drove home. Mara was asleep. I sat in the dark living room thinking about what to do with this information. Telling Tessa directly would be kind. But kindness wasn't the goal. The goal was pressure. The goal was making Lucas feel exposed, making him wonder how much I knew, making him start to unravel. I needed him to slip in front of someone who mattered. On Monday, I sent Lucas an email from a burner account I'd created at the library. Subject line, question about inventory. The message was simple. Hi, Lucas. I was at the Woodsman Friday night. Thought I saw you leaving with someone. Wasn't sure if you'd lost something. Wanted to check. Let me know. A friend. I didn't sign my real name, didn't include details, just enough to let him know someone had seen him, someone was watching. I sent it at 2 a.m. By morning, I'd deleted the account. Tuesday afternoon, Nolan called me. You busy? Not particularly. What's up? Need help with an install downtown. My partner called in sick. Could use an extra set of hands for a few hours. Sure. Where? He gave me an address. I met him there at 4. It was an office building. We spent 3 hours running cable through walls, mounting cameras, configuring software. Honest work. Normal work. The kind of thing that reminded me I was still a functioning person with a legitimate life. Afterward, we grabbed food at a taco truck. You doing okay? Nolan asked. Why wouldn't I be? You've got that look. The one people get when they're thinking too hard about something. I'm always thinking too hard about something. This is different. This is focused. He bit into his taco. You do anything yet? Depends on your definition of anything. Did you break any laws? No. Did you threaten anyone? No. Did you make someone feel like maybe they should be worried? I didn't answer. Nolan nodded slowly. That's what I thought. You disapprove? I didn't say that. I just want to make sure you're prepared for what comes next. Because once people start feeling pressure, they don't always react the way you expect. Sometimes they fold. Sometimes they fight back. Sometimes they just implode. You ready for any of those outcomes? I think so. Thinking isn't enough. You need to know. Because if this goes sideways, you don't get to claim ignorance. You set things in motion. You're responsible for where they go. I understand. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, you're playing with fire. and fire doesn't care about your intentions. Then why are you helping me? He shrugged. Because you're my friend. And friends don't abandon each other just because they're making questionable decisions. They just make sure you understand the risks. I understand the risks. Then I hope it's worth it. We finished eating in silence. When I got home, Mara was on the phone. She ended the call quickly when she saw me. Work? I asked. Yeah. Client emergency. Must be serious. You look stressed. I'm fine. If you say so? She went upstairs. I heard the bedroom door close. Then, faintly, her voice again. Another call. Quieter this time. More urgent. I didn't try to listen. I already knew who she was talking to. Thursday night, I went back to the Woodsman. Same table Lucas had sat at. Same view of the entrance. I ordered coffee, watched. He showed up at 10:30, alone. Looked around nervously before sitting. Ordered whiskey, checked his phone. I waited 15 minutes. Then I walked over. Mind if I sit? He looked up. Recognition, then anger, then something else. Fear. What are you doing here? Having coffee. You? Leave, now. This is a public place. I have as much right to be here as you do. He stood. I'm warning you. Warning me about what? That you'll call the police? And say what? That your fiancé's husband is sitting in a bar. That's not a crime, Lucas. You're harassing me. I'm drinking coffee. You're the one who came over to my table. He looked around. Other patrons were glancing over, watching. He lowered his voice. What do you want? I want you to be honest with yourself. About who you are. About what you're doing. About the choices you're making. You don't know anything about my choices, don't I? I know you're marrying someone while telling someone else you made a mistake. I know you're spending time at bars where your fiancé doesn't know you are. I know you're meeting people. Women, strangers. 2 weeks before your wedding. His face went pale. You're following me. I'm observing patterns. There's a difference. This is insane. You're insane. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just someone who pays attention, someone who sees what's really happening instead of the story you want people to believe. I'm calling the police. Go ahead. Tell them your fiancé's husband bought coffee in the same bar as you. See how seriously they take that. Then explain to Tessa why you were here in the first place, why you're so defensive about a random encounter, why you're so worried about what I might know. He stared at me. I could see him calculating, weighing options, deciding whether to escalate or retreat. He chose retreat. Stay away from me. Stay away from Tessa. Stay away from my business, or I will make you regret it. How? By doing what? You can't touch me without proving everything I'm suggesting is true. The second you react, you confirm that you're hiding something, that you're guilty, that you're exactly the person I think you are. I stood, placed a $10 bill on the table. Enjoy your evening, Lucas. I'm sure it'll be memorable. I walked out. My hands were shaking when I reached my truck. Not from fear, from adrenaline, from the rush of standing that close to someone and making them feel small without ever raising my voice or making a threat. I'd crossed a line tonight. I knew that. I'd moved from observation to confrontation, from psychological pressure to physical presence. And it had felt good. That scared me. Not because I regretted it, but because I didn't. I was becoming someone new, someone capable of calculated cruelty, someone who could look another person in the eye and make them understand they weren't safe. And the worst part was, I was okay with it. Mara knew something was wrong. She'd been watching me differently, studying me when she thought I wasn't paying attention, asking careful questions about where I'd been, who I'd talked to, what I'd done. I gave her vague answers, enough to be technically true, but not enough to satisfy her curiosity. The tension in the house thickened. We moved around each other like dancers who'd forgotten the steps. Polite, distant, waiting for someone to break the silence with something real. That moment came on Saturday morning. I was in the garage sorting through old project files when she appeared in the doorway. No greeting, no small talk, just direct confrontation. Lucas said you threatened him. I didn't look up from the file box. Lucas says a lot of things. He said you followed him to a bar, that you sat down at his table, that you said things about his life, about me, about Tessa. I went to a bar. He happened to be there. We had a conversation. That's not threatening. What did you say to him? I reminded him that choices have consequences, that hiding things doesn't make them go away, that eventually truth catches up to everyone. You're trying to ruin his life. I'm not trying to do anything. I'm watching it happen. She stepped into the garage. Why are you doing this? I set down the file and turned to face her. You really need to ask that? We're getting divorced. You said you understood, that you'd accepted it, that you wanted me to be happy. I never said any of those things. You assumed them, because it was easier than dealing with the reality that you destroyed something good for something that was never real. Lucas is real. Lucas is a fantasy. He's the idea of what you think you want, but he's not capable of giving it to you. Because he doesn't actually love you, Mara. He loves control, he loves having options, he loves knowing you're waiting for him while he does whatever he wants. You don't know him. I know enough. I know he's cheating on Tessa. Not just emotionally with you, actually cheating, with random women at bars. 2 weeks before his wedding. Her face froze. That's not true. It is true. I saw him. Friday night. He left the Woodsman with someone who wasn't you and wasn't Tessa. Oh, you're lying. Why would I lie? What do I gain from making this up? You already chose him. You already left me. The only reason to tell you this is because it's true, and because you deserve to know who you're fighting for. She backed away slightly. Even if it's true, it doesn't change anything. People make mistakes. It doesn't mean it means exactly what you think it means. Lucas is using you. He's using Tessa. He's using everyone around him to maintain an image. And when that image is threatened, he'll do whatever it takes to protect it, including throwing you aside. He loves me. Then why isn't he with you? Why is he marrying someone else? Why is he meeting strangers at bars while telling you he made a mistake? He's confused. He needs time. He's had time. He's had months, years, if you count the whole history between you. And he keeps making the same choice, the choice that isn't you. At what point do you stop believing the words and start paying attention to the actions? Her eyes filled with tears. You're cruel. I'm honest, which is more than you've been with me, or yourself. She wiped her face roughly. I came here to ask you to stop, to leave Lucas alone, to let us figure this out without you interfering. I'm not interfering. I'm just existing. If my existence makes Lucas uncomfortable, that's his problem, not mine. He's going to call the police. He's going to get a restraining order. On what grounds? That I went to a bar? That I looked at cars at his dealership? None of that is illegal. And if he tries to make it illegal, he'll have to explain why. He'll have to tell Tessa about you, about the phone calls, about the messages, about everything he's been hiding, and that will destroy the wedding faster than anything I could do. She stared at me. When did you become this person? I've always been this person. You just never paid attention because you were too busy looking somewhere else. She turned and left. I heard the front door close. Her car started. She was gone. I went back to sorting files. My hands were steady. My breathing was normal. But inside, something was shifting. A sense of momentum, of pieces moving into place. Mara would tell Lucas what I'd said. Lucas would panic. He'd start questioning what else I knew, what else I'd seen, what else I might tell Tessa. And in that panic, he'd make mistakes. Sunday afternoon, Tessa called. I answered. Jack, it's Tessa. Is Mara there? No, she went out. Not sure when she'll be back. Oh, okay. Can you have her call me when she gets in? It's kind of urgent. Is everything okay? Pause. I don't know. Lucas has been acting strange, paranoid. He keeps saying someone's following him, that someone's trying to ruin the wedding. I thought maybe Mara would know what's going on. Strange. I haven't heard anything about that. Really? Because Lucas mentioned you. He said you've been, I don't know, showing up places, saying things? I went to his dealership to look at cars, had a conversation with him at a bar we both happened to be at. That's not following. That's coincidence. Lucas doesn't believe in coincidence. Then Lucas might be more paranoid than you think? Another pause. Jack, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Okay. Is there something going on between Mara and Lucas? The question hung in the air. I could lie. Protect Mara. Protect Lucas. Maintain the fiction a little longer, or I could tell the truth. Let Tessa see what was really happening. Give her the information she needed to make her own decisions. That's a question you should ask Mara, I said carefully. Not me. But you know something. I know what I've observed, what I've seen, what Mara has told me. But whether that adds up to what you're asking, I can't say. Because I don't know what Lucas has told you. I don't know what you already suspect. I suspect he's still in love with her, with Mara, that maybe he never stopped, that maybe I'm just convenient. Then you should trust that suspicion. Ask direct questions. Demand clear answers. Don't let anyone tell you you're being paranoid or insecure. If something feels wrong, it probably is. She was quiet for a long moment. Mara's my best friend. She wouldn't do that to me. People do a lot of things they wouldn't do when they're desperate, or in love, or both. Are you saying she would? I'm saying you should talk to her. Really talk to her. And pay attention to whether she's giving you the truth or just the version of truth that keeps everyone comfortable. I will. Thank you, Jack. For what? For not lying to me. Even if you didn't tell me everything, you didn't lie. She hung up. I set down the phone. Thought about what I'd just done. I'd planted doubt, given Tessa permission to question what she'd been told, pointed her toward the truth without directly exposing it. That was manipulation, clear, calculated. Exactly the kind of thing I'd criticized Lucas for doing, but I told myself it was different. Because I was helping Tessa see reality. Because she deserved to know. Because the alternative was letting her marry someone who was actively betraying her. Whether that was true or just something I told myself to feel better, I wasn't sure anymore. Monday morning, Mara came back. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, hair uncombed. She went straight to the kitchen and poured coffee. Tessa called, she said without looking at me. I know, she called here yesterday. What did you tell her? I told her to talk to you. Did you tell her about Lucas and me? No, but I told her to trust her instincts, to ask direct questions, to demand honest answers. She turned to face me. Why? Why would you do that? Because she deserves to know. Because she's about to marry someone who doesn't respect her. Because someone needed to give her permission to see what's really happening. You're destroying everything. I'm not destroying anything. I'm just not protecting it anymore. There's a difference. Lucas is furious. He says you've crossed a line, that you're harassing him, that if you don't stop, he'll take legal action. Let him try. Every lawyer he talks to will tell him the same thing. I haven't broken any laws. I haven't made any threats. I've just been present. And if being present makes him uncomfortable, that's his conscience talking, not me. He's going to tell Tessa about us, about our history, about the phone calls. He's going to blame me for everything. Then maybe you should tell her first. Take control of the narrative. Be honest before he forces you to be. I can't. It'll destroy our friendship. Your friendship is already destroyed. You just haven't admitted it yet. The second you started sleeping with her fiancé, I'm not sleeping with him. Emotionally or otherwise, you destroyed the foundation. Everything since then has been pretending. She slammed her mug on the counter. You don't get to judge me. You don't know what it's like to want something you can't have, to feel like you settled, to wonder if you made the wrong choice. You're right. I don't know what that's like, because I chose you completely. I never looked back. I never wondered. I built a life with you because I thought that's what we both wanted. But apparently I was wrong. Apparently you were just marking time until something better came along. That's not fair. Neither is this. Neither is any of it. But here we are, and now you get to decide. Do you tell Tessa the truth, or do you wait for Lucas to do it? Because one way or another, she's going to find out. And how she finds out will determine whether you have any chance of salvaging that friendship. She stared at me. When did you become so cold? Around the same time you stopped seeing me as a person and started seeing me as an obstacle. She left the kitchen. I heard her on the phone upstairs. Mara's voice was urgent, pleading, trying to control damage that was already spreading. I sat at the table and thought about Tessa, about the conversation she was probably having with Mara right now, about the questions she was finally asking, about the answers she wasn't going to like. Everything was accelerating, moving toward an inevitable conclusion, and I was the one pushing it forward. Not with violence, not with threats, just with truth, with presence, with refusal to let lies stand unchallenged. That felt like justice, but it also felt like something darker, and I was starting to understand that the difference didn't matter anymore. The wedding was 6 days away, then 5, then 4. The countdown was constant, unavoidable, like watching a train approach a collapsed bridge, knowing the disaster was coming, but unable to stop it. Mara stopped sleeping. I'd hear her pacing at night. On the phone at 2, 3, 4 in the morning, whispering urgently into the dark. When I passed her in the house, she looked through me like I'd already stopped existing. She'd made her choice. She was going down with Lucas. Whatever happened next, they'd face together. Fine. On Wednesday, I received a text from Nolan. Need to talk. When are you free? Tonight, in 7. We met at the same coffee shop. He was waiting when I arrived, looking serious. You need to stop, he said immediately. Stop what? Whatever you're doing. Lucas filed a police report, said you're stalking him, harassing him, making threats. I haven't threatened anyone. I know that. You know that. But he's building a paper trail. And if something happens to him, anything, you're the first person they'll look at. Nothing's going to happen to him. I'm not going to touch him. I believe you, but you need to be smart about this. You've made your point. You've created pressure. Now back off before it blows up in your face. I'm not backing off. Not until this is finished. Finished how? What's the end game here, Jack? Lucas calls off the wedding. Mara comes crawling back. You feel vindicated, because none of that is going to happen. All you're doing is making yourself a target. I don't care. You should care. Because once you have a record, even a complaint, even an allegation, it follows you. Employers see it. Landlords see it. It affects everything. And for what? To prove a point to people who don't care about you. It's not about them caring. It's about them understanding there are consequences, that they can't just use people and walk away clean. That's not your job, man. Let them destroy themselves. They're already doing it. You don't need to help. I'm not helping. I'm watching. No, you're participating, and participation makes you responsible. I looked away. You're probably right. So you'll stop? I'll think about it. He studied me. You're not going to stop, are you? I don't know. Maybe. After the wedding. Why after? Because I want to see how it ends. I want to see if Lucas goes through with it, if Mara finally lets go, if Tessa opens her eyes. I want to witness the consequences. Even if it means risking everything? What am I risking? A marriage that's already over? A life that was built on someone else's timing? I've already lost the things that mattered. Now I'm just making sure the people who took them lose something too. Nolan shook his head slowly. You sound like someone I don't recognize. Good, because the person you recognized was weak, passive, someone who let life happen to him. I'm done being that person. Then I hope you're ready for what comes next. I am? He left. I sat alone for a long time, thinking about his warning, about police reports and paper trails, about crossing lines I couldn't uncross. But I wasn't afraid. I was calm, clear, certain. Friday night, I drove to Tessa's apartment, not to confront her, not to interfere, just to observe, to see if Lucas showed up, if Mara did, if the final confrontation was happening without me. I parked across the street, waited. At 8:30, Lucas's car pulled up. He got out, looked around nervously, went inside. 20 minutes later, Mara arrived. She hesitated outside the building, stood on the sidewalk for several minutes, phone in hand, then she went in. I waited. Lights were on in Tessa's third-floor apartment. I couldn't see inside, couldn't hear anything, just had to imagine the conversation happening, the accusations, the denials, the final unraveling of whatever friendship they'd built. At 9:15, Mara emerged. She was crying, stumbling slightly. She got in her car and sat there for 10 minutes before driving away. Lucas came out at 9:30. He wasn't crying. He looked angry, frustrated. He paced on the sidewalk, made several phone calls, got in his car, and drove off fast enough that his tires squealed. Tessa didn't come out. I drove home. Mara wasn't there. Her car wasn't in the driveway. I went inside, poured a drink, sat in the dark living room. At midnight, she sent a text. Tessa knows everything. The wedding is off. Lucas blames you. Says you destroyed his life. I don't know what happens next. But I wanted you to know it's over. I read the message 3 times. Then I typed a response. I didn't destroy anything. I just stopped pretending. There's a difference. She didn't respond. Saturday morning, the story spread. Tessa posted on social media that the wedding was canceled. No explanation. Just a simple statement thanking people for their support and asking for privacy. The comments section filled with questions, speculation, drama. By afternoon, someone had leaked the real story, that Lucas had been involved with his fiance's best friend, that the best friend was married, that the whole thing was a disaster. Names weren't used, but in a small community, names weren't necessary. Everyone would figure it out. Mara's phone started ringing. She didn't answer, just sat on the couch staring at nothing. Are you happy now? She asked quietly. No. Then why did you do it? I didn't do it. You did. Lucas did. I just refused to help you hide it. Same thing. Not even close. She looked at me. Tessa won't speak to me. Lucas says I ruined his reputation, his business, everything. He says I'm toxic, that I destroy everything I touch. And you believe him? I don't know what I believe anymore. Believe this. Lucas was never going to choose you. The wedding falling apart didn't change that. It just exposed what was already true, that he was using you, that he was using Tessa, that he's only capable of thinking about himself. And what about you? What were you doing? Because it sure felt like you were enjoying this, watching us fall apart, making it happen. I was creating clarity, forcing everyone to see what was really happening instead of the comfortable lies. If that made me the villain, so be it. You are the villain. You didn't save anyone, you just made everything worse. Maybe, or maybe everything was already worse and everyone was just pretending otherwise. She stood. I'm leaving, going to stay with my sister for a while, figure out what's next. Okay. That's it? Just okay? What do you want me to say? I can't stop you, I can't fix this. All I can do is let you go. She grabbed her bag, stopped at the door. I loved you. At some point, I really did. I know. Then why wasn't that enough? Because love isn't enough when one person is always looking somewhere else. When one person is settling. When one person is just marking time until something better comes along. Love requires presence, commitment, truth, and we didn't have any of those things. We could have. No, we couldn't, because you never wanted to. She left. The door closed. The house was silent. I sat alone for a long time, thinking about everything that had happened, everything I'd done, everything I'd become. I'd won. In a way, I'd exposed Lucas. I'd forced the truth. I'd made everyone face reality. But it didn't feel like victory. It felt like ash, like standing in the ruins of something that could never be rebuilt. I poured another drink, looked out at the empty driveway, the empty house, the empty future, and I understood, finally, what Nolan had been trying to tell me, that becoming someone who could do this, who could systematically dismantle other people's lives, meant becoming someone I didn't fully recognize, someone colder, harder, more capable of cruelty, someone who'd crossed lines that couldn't be uncrossed. I'd wanted justice, consequences, truth, and I'd gotten them. But the cost was becoming exactly the kind of person I'd hated Lucas for being. Sunday arrived cold and gray, the kind of morning that felt like an ending. I woke early, made coffee, sat at the kitchen table staring at nothing in particular. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Tessa. Can we talk? I stared at the message for a long moment. Then I typed back. When? Now. I'm outside. I looked out the front window. Her car was parked across the street. She was sitting behind the wheel, watching the house. I went outside. She got out of her car. We stood on the sidewalk, not quite facing each other. Thanks for seeing me, she said. What do you want to talk about? Everything. I need to understand what happened, why it happened, who knew what when. That's a long conversation. I have time. We went inside. I made her coffee. We sat in the living room. She looked exhausted, broken in a way that made me feel something I hadn't expected. Guilt. Mara told me everything, Tessa said. About the phone calls with Lucas, about being in love with him, about the whole history. But she says you knew for weeks, that you didn't tell me. Why? Because it wasn't my place to tell you. That's a cop-out. You knew Lucas was betraying me. You knew Mara was betraying me. You could have warned me, given me a chance to get out before the wedding. Would you have believed me? She hesitated. I don't know. That's why I didn't say anything. Because you would have thought I was bitter, jealous, making things up. You would have believed them over me. So instead, I created conditions where they'd expose themselves. By doing what? Following Lucas, showing up at his dealership, confronting him in bars? By being present, by refusing to disappear, by making him aware that someone was watching, that his lies had consequences. That's manipulation. Yes, it is. She stared at me. You don't seem sorry about it. I'm not. You deserve to know the truth, and the only way for you to know was for them to reveal it themselves. If I'd told you directly, they would have denied it, blamed me, made you doubt yourself. This way, you saw it firsthand. You can't question what you experienced directly. But you enjoyed it, watching them fall apart, watching Lucas panic, watching Mara lose everything. I wouldn't say I enjoyed it, but I didn't hate it either. They hurt me, they lied to everyone, they were building a future on deception. Someone needed to stop them. And you decided that someone was you. Someone had to. She looked away. I keep trying to figure out who to blame. Lucas for lying, Myra for betraying me, you for orchestrating this whole thing. But maybe the truth is we're all responsible, all complicit in different ways. Maybe. Do you feel better now that it's over? I thought about that question, really considered it. No, I feel tired, hollow, like I won something I didn't want. Then why did you do it? Because sitting back and letting it happen felt worse. Because being passive, being the person things happen to, felt like dying slowly. At least this way I had agency, control, even if what I controlled was destruction. She stood. I came here thinking I'd hate you, that I'd see you as the villain who ruined everything. But you're not the villain. You're just someone who got hurt and decided to hurt back. And I can't decide if that makes you human or something else. What's the difference? I don't know anymore. She walked to the door, stopped. For what it's worth, I don't think I would have believed you if you told me directly. I was too invested in the fantasy, too scared to see the truth. So in a twisted way, you did me a favor, even if it felt like torture. You're welcome. She left. I stood in the doorway watching her drive away. Then I went back inside. Closed the door, locked it. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Lucas. You destroyed my life. I hope you're proud. I didn't respond, just deleted the message. Then I sat down and thought about what came next. Mara was gone. Tessa knew the truth. Lucas's reputation was shattered. The wedding was canceled. Everything I'd worked toward had happened, and now I was alone in an empty house with nothing but the memory of who I used to be and the knowledge of who I'd become. I poured one more drink, raised it to the empty room. To clarity, I said to no one. Then I drank it. Outside, the rain started. Heavy, relentless, the kind that washes everything away without asking permission. I sat in the dark listening to it hit the windows, thinking about how easy it had been, how simple, how all it took to destroy someone's life was patience and attention and the willingness to stop protecting them from themselves. How all it took to become someone different was deciding the person you were wasn't enough anymore. I'd wanted revenge. I'd gotten it. Lucas's business would struggle. Mara would spend years rebuilding trust. Tessa would carry the betrayal forever. And me? I'd carry the knowledge that I'd made it happen, that I'd chosen this, that every consequence, every broken piece, every moment of pain, I'd orchestrated it all. Not with violence, not with threats, just with truth, with presence, with refusal to let lies stand. That felt like victory. It felt like justice. It felt like becoming exactly who they'd needed me not to be. And as the rain fell harder and the house grew darker, I understood finally that there was no going back from this. No redemption arc. No moment of clarity where I'd regret my choices and try to fix things. I was who I'd become. The person who could look at destruction and call it clarity. The person who could hurt others and call it truth. The villain of my own story. And I was okay with that. Because for the first time in years, I felt like I'd chosen something. Like I'd taken control instead of waiting for permission. Like I'd stopped being the person things happened to and become the person who made things happen. Even if what I made was ruins. Even if what I built was nothing. I'd done it myself. And that was enough. The rain continued. The night deepened. I sat alone in the dark, holding my empty glass, thinking about nothing and everything, thinking about how sometimes the only way to win is to become someone you never wanted to be, someone capable of cruelty, someone willing to cross lines, someone who understands that justice and revenge are sometimes the same thing, wrapped in different words. I'd become that someone, and tomorrow I'd wake up and be him again, and the day after that, and the day after that, until it wasn't even a choice anymore, until it was just who I was, the person who destroyed everything to prove he could, the person who called it honesty, the person who won by making sure everyone else lost more. I set down my glass, closed my eyes, listened to the rain, and I smiled.